Hey guys, it's Libby, and today I'm going to be talking about what active listening is and how you can do it and why it's important. So let's just go ahead and dive on in. So active listening is really important because it makes the person who is speaking feel like they are heard. And if you've ever talked to somebody and felt like they weren't listening to you, or felt like you weren't sure of how they were receiving your information, anything like that, you know that it's not a great feeling. It makes you feel weird, unsure, nervous, it can make you feel a lot of things. So becoming an active listener is really important. I'm talking about this on my channel because it is so important in mental health conversations. If the person who is listening is not being an active listener, that just makes disclosing even harder for the speaker. So practice active listening with these tips that I'm going to give you now. The first type of active listening has to do with nonverbal cues. This can include doing things like nodding and making appropriate eye contact. You don't need to stare them down, but make some appropriate eye contact. You can smile when it's appropriate. And another thing you can do is kind of lean in a little bit, especially if they're sharing something kind of personal. Leaning in shows them that you're really listening and that you're kind of keeping it between you two. It's a private conversation and you're keeping it that way. Now on to some verbal cues. The first thing I want to say is that you don't want to be super distracting with your verbal cues. You don't want to go over the top because then you're just distracting the speaker and you're kind of taking the attention away from them, and you don't want to do that. So one way that you can be an active listener with verbal cues is to say things like mm-hmm, or I see, or oh, stuff like that. Just little remarks that aren't super long or loud or anything like that. Just little things that show that you're listening to what they're saying. Every now and again, though, it is a good idea to repeat back to them what you're hearing from them to show if you're comprehending what they're saying or not. If you repeat back to them what you understood, that'll show them what you do understand and maybe what you don't. And then you can move on from there. They can re-explain something, or they can say, yep, you got it, So restating what they're saying is a really good idea. Something else you can do is ask questions. If you ask questions, that shows that you are listening and that you're really thinking about what they're saying. You're not just absorbing it and not paying any attention, So showing that you're listening by asking questions, when it's appropriate, of course, is a good idea. Now I do have some don'ts for active listening, so things that you should not do. The first one is when the person is speaking, don't be sitting there thinking about what you're gonna say next, because then you're not really listening. So allow them to say what they're gonna say, and then if you need to say hold on, or wait, or I've got something to say, or something like that, then you can sit there, pause for a second, collect your thoughts, and then share. But do not be just sitting there thinking about what you're gonna say, because then you're not listening. With that, I will say do your best not to interrupt the speaker. Wait for a little gap or a lull or something like that to make a comment. Obviously, if you need them to stop, you can stop them, but you don't want to be stopping them all the time. Another thing I'll say is do not distract from the point or change the subject. It might be a difficult conversation you're having, but don't be making jokes when it's not appropriate. Don't be switching it to talk about something else. And of course, don't start talking about yourself unless it's appropriate. This conversation probably is not about you. So do your best to just listen and think about them, not yourself. And the last don't I have for you is do not pretend you understand when you don't, because then you're not being a good listener because you didn't understand anything you just heard. So maybe you listened, but if you don't understand it, then what was the point? You know what I mean? So like I said earlier, ask questions. Summarize what you heard and see if you're understanding them correctly, You don't want to just go oh yeah, I know what you mean, and when you don't. Keep that in mind. Those are all my tips though for you on active listening, what active listening can look like and what it shouldn't look like. I hope that this video is really helpful and informative. When it comes to mental health, it is so important to be an active listener. So if you're ever in a place where you're listening to somebody, be an active listener. And if you need somebody to be an active listener for you, send this video to them. Maybe giving them this knowledge will help them learn to become a better listener when it comes to listening to you and everybody else. So yeah, I hope this video was an enjoyable and informative experience, and I hope you have a good day. So, bye!